Maryland. You're on the air with our guest. Go ahead.
Oh, hey, it's an honor to speak with you, gentlemen. Dr. Hamamoto, do you foresee any top elitists like having a change of heart and like becoming whistleblowers, or are they too entrenched in their divide and conquer mindset?
I don't think anybody is free of the possibility of conversion or coming to their senses. The story of Saul of Tarsus is quite instructive, right? As Alex mentioned earlier, he was basically a thug, a brute, an enforcer for the Pharisees, and he had a radical change of heart and spirit and mind. So yes, it's possible, and I'll go a little bit further than that. I foresee larger and larger numbers of defections from people as they feel their own self-interest being threatened.
You're absolutely right. And look, it's easy to cheat. It's easy to divide people. That's why so many cultures do it. There's always going to be some element of manipulation. Nobody's perfect. But we're into a decadent cycle right now where it's so intense, and they're using high-tech media systems to do it, and it's so toxic to everybody. We have to have a cultural awakening to these tactics and then reject them, just like we rejected GMO or non-organic, and it will start new economies of truth, new economies of being honorable, a re-entry of the age of chivalry, but 2.0. Thank you, Pete. Great question. Eddie in Illinois, you're on the air with Professor Hamamoto.
Yeah, how you doing, Alex?
Good, brother.
I just want to say real quick that I'm in the middle of changing my life, and I have a question. I bought the DNA Force and Oxy powder. I lost my job. 816-820-57.
Hold on a second. Hold on one second, brother. We can't give phone numbers out on air, but I appreciate that because somebody could call in with somebody else's number as a form of harassment. And I'm not saying you're doing that, but we can't give phone numbers out. Sometimes we can give out 1-800 numbers because if it's a known number, but that's a tactic. Sometimes people call in to talk radio and give out, say, their ex-wife's phone number. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. I just want to say I am in the season of giving, in Illinois, they're saying you can't film the cops. It's going to be a felony. I'm getting ready to be evicted. I'm a very good person. I'm just wondering how I can, I pray to God.
No, I hear you, brother. I hear you, and I appreciate your call. You could give out your email if you wanted people to contact you locally and have them work with you. What's your email? Well, he's gone. You're going to see that as the economy collapses and more people can't get a job and are kicked off their unemployment. You're going to see more of that desperation. We have 50 million people roughly on food stamps. Imagine 50 million people a day lined up at soup kitchens. That would really expose what this economy's been converted to, Professor.
Absolutely, and those numbers are rising. They're beginning to affect the middle class. And with the lowering of immigration barriers, you're going to see a lot of professionals in the IT business and computer science and engineering affected by foreign workers that people like Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates want to have and bring in to take their jobs away.
And then that gets rid of one of the only first world countries, which then there's no point for the third world to run here. It's a giant sinking, it's a giant race to the bottom, as Ross Perot warned us. We'll be back in 70 seconds, and we'll talk to Frank, Dr. Kelly, Edward, and others. Stay with us. We're taking phone calls right now. We're going to go to Frank in North Carolina. You're on the air with Professor Hamamoto. Go ahead, Frank.
Yes, Professor, I just wanted to lay out a quick 10-year observation, and then I would really value your opinion. I'd like to ask you a question. I'm sure you'll have a good, interesting response. But I figure you're probably more intelligent, more informed than 99% of the people I come into contact with in any given year here in my area of the country. Now, I keep seeing these headlines of the CIA justifying torture based on the 9/11 attacks, and I hear all these people calling into all these talk shows in my area, mostly saying that they agree with a policy of torture because of 9/11 and all that. Now, I know that 9/11 was, I guess just for the purposes of brevity here, an inside job. And I hear from people, insiders like Dr. Steve Pachinik, that say that overwhelmingly the American people do not believe the official story of the 9/11 attacks. And I just keep wondering, I've been away for 10 years. Where are all these people?
You're listening to niche, fake right-wing radio where people just regurgitate talking points, the same cult as Democrats do. And so that's why you have pockets of this in many areas of the country, as you have pockets that are really awake. I'd say 30% are really wise to what's going on. Another 20% knows something. And about half the public just doesn't care. But still, that type of percentage is huge. Let's get the professor's take on that.
I'm skeptical of the numbers that are being produced there, but supposedly the majority of American people being in favor of torture. I was perhaps trying to attribute this hype to these trolls that call into these programs. You notice these individuals who are pro-torture do not call into the Alex Jones show. I don't hear them calling into Savage Nation. There are all these small, really local television and radio programs that court this very small constituency, and it's still very difficult for me to wrap my mind around any notion that most Americans who are good and moral individuals, by and large, would accept the abuse, the humiliation, the torture of human beings. I think most of them are like Joe Biggs, who quite poignantly talked about the screams and then the weeping and then the silence that followed and that progression. That's deeply affecting to most human beings, but perhaps I'm underestimating.
Well, sure, and plus intellectually, it destroys the judicial system. You can't believe any confessions anymore if torture's going on. I mean,
absolutely, it completely, and perhaps that's why the torture regime has been put in place, is to produce rot from the inside out and from the top down.
Well, sure, plus there's the schizophrenic hypocrisy where anybody else that ever tortures bad. North Korea's bad, or Nazi Germany's bad, or, blah, blah, blah. But, oh, my gosh, when we do it, it's good.
Now, let's stick to the moral high ground. You can't go wrong by just doing what's right and what's moral and what's just.
You're right, though. It is an attempt to infect us with corruption.
Absolutely. This is part of the destruction of the culture. This is psyops. This is programming of the highest sort, appealing to the basis aspect of human nature.
Well, Professor, I have to plead ignorance, and I apologize. I did not know you had a new book out. I'm going to read it as soon as it comes in, and as soon as that happens, I want to get you on for a full hour to go chapter by chapter through how you've put this into a scholarly dissertation on the subject. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you so much, Alex, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Oh, I meant to ask you about that, but we're out of time. Colleges banning Christmas. I mean, it's just amazing.
All right, drop out.
All right, yeah. Thank you so much. We'll talk to Professor again soon. Billy Corgan coming up, ladies and gentlemen. Stay with us. That was Professor Darrell Hamamoto.